The alarm on the bedside table did not ring. It didn't have to. Lucas Ward's eyes opened at 04 a.m. sharp, a biological habit forged in the freezing mud of Buddy's training and hardened over 12 years of deployments in places that didn't appear on civilian maps. The house in Silver Creek, Montana, was silent. It was a silence Lucas curated with obsessive precision. The floors were carpeted to muffle footsteps. The furniture was bolted down and arranged in a rigid, unchanging grid. To an outsider, the living room looked like a showroom, pristine, minimalist, cold. To Lucas, it was a safety map, a topographic layout of hazards neutralized. He sat up, the scar tissue on his shoulder pulling tight, a dull reminder of a mortar round in Fallujah. But that pain was old. It was manageable. It was the other pain, the quiet, gnawing heaviness in his chest that required more than physical therapy. Lucas walked down the hallway, stepping only on the left side of the runner rug, instinctively avoiding the creaky floorboard on the right. He stopped at the door painted a soft, calming blue. He pushed it open just an inch. Inside, the rhythm of soft breathing filled the room. Owen was asleep. At 8 years old, Owen was small for his age, with hair the color of wheat, just like his mother's had been. He lay on his back, hands open, palms facing up. Lucas watched him for a long moment, his night vision adjusting to the gloom. Owen had never seen the sunrise. He had never seen the way the Montana snow glittered like crushed diamonds, or the way Lucas's face softened when he looked at him. Owen had been born into the dark. Congenital blindness, the doctors had said. A severe opacity combined with unresponsive retinal nerves. Irreversible. The word hung in Lucas's mind every day like a sentence. Irreversible. Lucas was a man who fixed things. He breached doors. He diffused explosives. He extracted hostages. He was a solution architect for impossible problems. But this was a wall he couldn't breach. When his wife Sarah died during childbirth due to complications that spiraled out of control, she had left him with a final, gasping plea. "Take care of him, Luke. Make him see the world for me." He had failed the second part of that promise before he had even begun. Lucas closed the door softly and went to the kitchen. He brewed coffee, black, drank it standing up, and then began his morning workout in the garage. Weights clanged, sweat dripped. He pushed his body until his muscles screamed, trying to drown out the silence of the house. By 6:30 a.m., Owen was awake. Lucas entered the room, his demeanor shifting from warrior to caregiver. "Morning, buddy," he said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming gentle. "Morning, Dad," Owen replied. His voice was melodic, sensitive. He turned his head toward the sound of Lucas's footsteps, his eyes, milky, unfocused, and often closed, aimed vaguely at Lucas's chest. "Breakfast in 10. Oatmeal and berries. Same as yesterday," Lucas announced. 3 steps to the door. "Turn left. 12 steps to the kitchen island," Owen recited. It was their drill. "Execute," Lucas said softly. Owen slid out of bed. He didn't use a cane in the house. He didn't need to. Lucas ensured that nothing ever moved. Not a chair. Not a book. Not a shoe. The house was a static grid. Owen navigated it with a shuffling confidence, his hands slightly outstretched. Lucas watched him, analyzing his movement. Safe, efficient, limited. They ate in silence. Lucas watched Owen find the spoon, map the distance to the bowl, and eat. It was a mechanical process. Lucas had taught him survival, not exploration. He protected Owen from bumps, bruises, and the chaos of the unpredictable world. "We have the new therapist coming today," Lucas said, breaking the silence. Owen paused, his spoon hovering. "Another one?" "Miss Lynn. The agency said she specializes in sensory integration." "The last one said I needed to accept my limitations," Owen said, reciting the words with the eerie memory of a child who listens too closely. "You don't have limitations, Owen. You have protocols," Lucas corrected firmly. "But we need to see if she can help with your dexterity. Tying shoelaces. That sort of thing." "Okay," Owen sighed. Lucas felt that familiar stab of guilt. He had turned his son's life into a mission to be managed, not a life to be lived. He protected Owen so fiercely that he had inadvertently built a prison around him, a fortress of silence where Owen was safe but completely alone. At 09 Rise, a car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't the usual official medical transport van. It was a beat-up Subaru with mud on the tires and a kayak rack on the roof. Lucas watched from the window, arms crossed. A woman stepped out. She looked nothing like the clinical, starch-collared therapists they usually sent. She was small, Asian American, wearing cargo pants and a thick flannel shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun held together by what looked like a chopstick. She carried an oversized canvas bag that looked heavy. Lucas opened the door before she could knock. "Mr. Ward?" she asked, looking up at him. She didn't flinch at his size or the intense, assessing stare he gave her. "Maya Lin? That's me," she smiled, extending a hand. "Sorry I'm late. I stopped to rescue a turtle crossing the highway. Persistent little guy." Lucas didn't smile. He shook her hand briefly. "We run on a schedule here, Miss Lin." "Maya," she corrected pleasantly. "And schedules are great, until they aren't. Can I meet Owen?" Lucas stepped aside. "He's in the living room. Do not move the furniture." Maya paused in the hallway, looking at the pristine, museum-like quality of the house. She looked at Lucas, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. "Understood," she said. "High security zone." She walked into the living room. Owen was sitting on the carpet, listening to an audiobook about whales. "Hi, Owen," Maya said softly. She didn't use the high-pitched, talking to a disabled child voice. She spoke to him like an adult. Owen tilted his head. "You smell like rain." Maya laughed, a genuine bright sound that seemed to crack the sterile atmosphere of the room. "That's the river water. I'm Maya. I hear you're an expert on navigating this house." "I know where everything is," Owen said proudly. "That's boring," Maya said, dropping her heavy bag on the floor with a loud thump. Lucas stiffened. "Miss Lin." "Maya," she repeated, not looking at Lucas. She sat cross-legged on the floor next to Owen. "Knowing where everything is means nothing surprises you. And if nothing surprises you, your brain goes to sleep. I brought some things. None of them belong in this room." Lucas watched, his jaw tight. This was unconventional. He didn't like unconventional. Unconventional got people killed in the field. But he saw Owen lean forward, intrigued by the thump. "What is it?" Owen asked. "Reach out and find out," Maya challenged. For the first time in years, Lucas saw curiosity replace the rote mechanical compliance in his son's posture. Owen reached out. This woman was trouble, Lucas thought. But for some reason he didn't kick her out. Not yet. The first week with Maya was a war of attrition. Lucas hovered. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, monitoring every interaction. He was ready to intervene, to stop her from pushing Owen too hard, to prevent the inevitable disappointment that came when Owen failed a task. But Maya didn't operate on pass or fail. She operated on chaos. She brought in textures, sandpaper, velvet, ice, warm stones. She made Owen walk barefoot on bubble wrap. She brought in a fan and made him identify the direction of the wind. "The brain sees with more than just eyes, Lucas," she told him on the third day, using his first name with an annoying familiarity. They were in the kitchen while Owen was busy sorting different types of dried beans by touch in the living room. "His optic nerves are dead, Maya. Don't fill his head with false hope. We need practical skills." "Hygiene, dressing, feeding," Lucas said, pouring water. "His medical file says unresponsive," Maya corrected, leaning against the counter. "It says severe corneal scarring and phthisical tendencies." "But have you watched him when the sun hits the west window?" Lucas frowned. "What do you mean?" "He turns away," Maya said. "He flinches. Sensitivity. The nerves register pain, not light," Lucas dismissed. "The doctors told me this years ago. The eyes are structural failures. Like a broken camera lens on a disconnected circuit." "Maybe," Maya said, tapping her chin. "But yesterday I rolled a bright red ball across the floor. He didn't hear it. It's foam. But he tracked it. He heard the friction on the carpet." "No," Maya said, her voice dropping. "He tracked the shadow casting over his hand." Lucas slammed his water glass down harder than he intended. "Stop it. Do not do this." Maya straightened up. "Do what?" "Do not act like you found something a team of neurologists and ophthalmologists missed at the best hospital in Seattle 8 years ago. You are an occupational therapist. Your job is to help him live in the dark, not pretend there's light." It was the soldier in him speaking, the man who needed the intel to be accurate even if the intel was bad. False hope was dangerous. False hope led to mistakes. Maya didn't back down. "I'm not a doctor, Lucas. But I'm a mechanic of the human body, and I know when a system is reacting to input. Owen is visually suppressed, yes, but he is not totally blind. And the way he rubs his eyes, what about it? He digs his knuckles in, hard, like he's trying to push something out. Most blind kids rub their eyes for stimulation. It's called oculodigital phenomenon. But Owen does it differently. He claws at the corners, like he's wearing a mask that's too tight." Lucas stared at her. "He's done that since he was a baby." "Exactly," Maya said softly. "Why?" That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Why? He thought back to those first horrific weeks, the emergency C-section, the chaos, Sarah crashing, the baby being whisked away to the NICU. Lucas had been paralyzed by grief, signing forms he didn't read, burying his wife while his son lay in an incubator hooked to machines. The doctors had told him the baby had a severe infection, ophthalmia neonatorum or something similar, compounded by a rare reaction to the prophylactic medication, leading to symboliferon and corneal keratinization. They said the eyes were fused, damaged, useless. They had placed protective shields on them to prevent further infection during the critical weeks. Wait. Lucas sat up. Protective shields. He remembered the specialist saying, "We need to keep the ocular surface protected while the inflammation subsides." Then months later, another doctor said, "The scarring is total. The tissue has grown over. There is nothing to be done." Lucas got up and went to the garage. He had boxes of old medical records he hadn't opened since Sarah died. He dug through them, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam. He found the discharge papers from the NICU. Procedure notes. Bilateral conformers inserted to prevent adhesion. Amniotic membrane graft. Lucas read it again. Conformers. Plastic shells used to keep the eye shape and prevent the eyelid from sticking to the eyeball. He flipped to the follow-up records from 6 months later. Diagnosis: total corneal leukoma, phthisis bulbi, recommendation, palliative care, visual aids. There was no record of the conformers being removed. Lucas felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Montana winter. Surely they dissolved. Surely they fell out. Or surely the doctors took them out and didn't write it down because it was routine. But Maya's words echoed in his head. He claws at the corners, like he's wearing a mask that's too tight. The next morning, the atmosphere in the house was tense. Lucas was silent, brooding. He watched Owen eating his oatmeal, studying the boy's face. Owen's eyes were usually half closed, the lids heavy. When he did open them, the surface was a cloudy, grayish-white expanse. No iris, no pupil. Just a scarred, opaque wall. Maya arrived at 09 Saurazzo. She sensed the shift immediately. "You checked the records," she stated, not asking. Lucas nodded. There were conformers put in. 7 days after birth. And removal. "I can't find the date." Maya exhaled slowly. "Lucas, if those shells are still in there, and the tissue grew over them, it would cause infection." "He would have lost the eyes years ago," Lucas argued, playing devil's advocate against his own rising panic. "Not necessarily," Maya said, her voice clinical now, stripped of her usual playfulness. "If they were antibiotic impregnated, or if his body encapsulated them. Lucas, the body is strange. It adapts. It builds scar tissue around foreign objects to wall them off. If the tissue grew over the shells, he wouldn't feel the object anymore. He would just feel the pressure. And he wouldn't see," Lucas whispered. "He would see nothing but a white wall. The shell blocks the light, the scar tissue blocks the shell. Lucas looked at his son, who was currently feeling the texture of a pine cone Maya had brought. I need to know, Lucas said, but I can't take him to the city yet. If we go to a specialist, they'll sedate him, they'll run tests. If we are wrong, I'm putting him through trauma for nothing. Let me look, Maya said. Really look. I have a penlight and a magnifying loupe in my bag. I use them for checking splints and fine motor injuries. Lucas hesitated. He doesn't let people touch his eyes. He trusts me, Maya said, and he trusts you. If you hold him, if you tell him it's a mission. Lucas walked over to Owen. He knelt down. The height difference vanished. Owen, Lucas said. Yes, Dad? Maya and I need to check your gear. Owen frowned. My gear? Your eyes. We think there might be something blocking your sensors. We need to do a maintenance check. It requires you to be very still. Can you do that? Like a statue? Owen stiffened, then nodded. Like a soldier. Better, Lucas said, his voice choking slightly. Like a ward. Maya moved in. She pulled a heavy chair over. She took out a high-intensity penlight and a set of jeweled magnifying glasses that clipped onto her own glasses. Okay, Owen, Maya said softly. I'm going to touch your eyelid. It might feel cold. Lucas held Owen's hands. They were small, warm, and trembling slightly. Maya gently lifted the right eyelid. Owen flinched, trying to pull away. Hold fast, Lucas commanded softly. Owen froze. Maya shone the light at an oblique angle. She leaned in, holding her breath. She wasn't looking at the center of the eye. She was looking at the edge, where the white of the sclera met the cloudy cornea. She adjusted the light. She looked for the natural curve of organic tissue. What do you see? Lucas demanded, his heart hammering against his ribs like a captive bird. The tissues, it's vascularized, Maya murmured. Lots of red lines. That's the body trying to heal something. She moved the light again. Then she stopped. Lucas, she whispered. What? Look here. She guided his hand to hold the light. Do you see that ridge? Right under the upper lid? Lucas leaned in. He squinted. It was hard to tell. It just looked like lumpy white flesh. But then as Owen rolled his eye downward, Lucas saw it. A distinct, sharp line, a perfect arc. Organic tissue doesn't grow in perfect geometric arcs. It's a rim, Maya said, pulling back, her hands shaking. There is something rigid under that layer of skin. It's not his eye, Lucas, it's a cover. Lucas stared at the gray, opaque surface of his son's eye. For 8 years, he had looked at that and seen a dead end. Now he realized he wasn't looking at an eye at all. He was looking at a biological curtain drawn over a forgotten window. The conformer, Lucas breathed. It's still there. And if it's there, Maya said, meeting his gaze with an intensity that burned, then the eye underneath might not be damaged at all. It's just been in the dark. The silence in the room was deafening. It was broken only by Owen. Dad? Owen asked, his voice small. Did I pass the inspection? Lucas swallowed the lump in his throat. He squeezed Owen's hands. Yes, son. You passed. But we found something we need to fix. Lucas stood up. The rigid control, the carefully curated schedule, the acceptance of irreversible. It all shattered. Pack your bag, Maya, Lucas said, his voice returning to the steel tone of a command master chief. We are going to the hospital, and I am going to find the doctor who signed those discharge papers, and God help him. Lucas, wait. Maya grabbed his arm. We can't just storm in. This is delicate. If that tissue is fused to the cornea, ripping it off could blind him for real. We need a plan. Lucas looked at her. The anger was there, hot and white, but beneath it was something he hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope. Terrifying, dangerous hope. We need a surgeon, Lucas said. Not a doctor, a mechanic, someone who understands removing obstructions without triggering the bomb. I know someone, Maya said. He's retired. He was a battlefield surgeon. He lost his license for operating outside of protocol, but he's the best with scar tissue. Lucas looked at his blind son, who was innocently rubbing the corner of his eye. rubbing the plastic edge that had been burying him in darkness since the day he was born. "Call him," Lucas said. The drive to Dr. Elias Thorne's clinic took them 3 hours north, deep into the jagged spine of the Cabinet Mountains. The pristine paved roads of the suburbs gave way to gravel, and the gravel eventually surrendered to a narrow dirt track flanked by towering Douglas firs. Lucas drove the truck with white-knuckled precision. Beside him, Maya looked out the window, her face pale. In the back seat, Owen hummed a low, repetitive tune, his fingers dancing in the air, tracing invisible patterns. It was his self-soothing mechanism, a way to organize the chaotic vibrations of the car into something predictable. "This man," Lucas broke the silence, his eyes scanning the tree line. "You said he lost his license. Why?" Maya hesitated. "He didn't lose it for incompetence. He lost it for creative interpretation of hospital bureaucracy. He operated on an uninsured veteran using hospital supplies off the books. The administration didn't appreciate the Robin Hood Act. Now he runs a private consult clinic, mostly for animals, sometimes for people who don't want to be found. But he knows the anatomy of the eye better than anyone." Lucas grunted. He respected men who broke rules for the right reasons. That was a language he spoke fluently. They arrived at a structure that looked more like a hunting lodge than a medical facility. Smoke curled from a stone chimney. However, as they stepped onto the porch, Lucas noticed the details. The door was reinforced steel, the windows were triple-paned, and the security camera in the corner was military-grade. The door opened before they knocked. Dr. Elias Thorne was a mountain of a man, bearded, wearing a stained apron over scrubs. He looked like a blacksmith, but his hands were immaculately clean, his fingernails scrubbed pink. "Maya," he rumbled. "You brought a crowd." "I brought a puzzle, Elias," she said. Thorne looked at Lucas, assessing the threat level, then looked down at Owen. His expression softened instantly. "Come in. Don't touch the cat." The interior was a jarring mix of rustic cabin and high-tech laboratory. A wood stove burned in the corner, but the examination chair was state-of-the-art, surrounded by monitors and digital imaging equipment. "Sit the boy down," Thorne commanded. Lucas lifted Owen into the chair. "Owen, this is Dr. Thorne. He's going to look at your eyes just like Maya did." "Does he smell like rain too?" Owen asked, sniffing the air. "No," Thorne grunted, pulling a majestic optical scanner closer. "I smell like antiseptic and old coffee. Hold still." For 20 minutes the room was filled with the hum of machines and the clicking of keys. Thorne used an ultrasound biomicroscope, a wand that pressed gently against Owen's closed eyelid, to see through the tissue without cutting it. Lucas watched the monitor. He saw ghostly shapes in gray and black. Finally, Thorne sat back. He wiped the gel from Owen's eyelids with a tenderness that belied his size. "You were right," Thorne said to Maya, but he looked at Lucas. "Bilateral conformers, PMMA plastic. They've been in there so long the conjunctiva, the mucous membrane, has grown completely over them. It's a condition called total symblepharon. Can you take them out?" Lucas asked. The question felt like a grenade he was holding, pin pulled. Thorne sighed, spinning his stool around. "Taking them out is the easy part. It's just surgery. I cut the fibrosis, extract the shell, reconstruct the eyelid margin. An hour's work." "So do it," Lucas said. "It's not that simple, soldier," Thorne snapped. He stood up and walked to a whiteboard. "This is where the education starts. Listen closely, because I'm not going to repeat it." Thorne drew a diagram of an eye, then a brain. "Vision is not a camera function. It is a brain function," Thorne lectured, his voice echoing in the wood-paneled room. "The eyes are just the lens. The optic nerve is the cable. The occipital lobe in the back of the brain is the hard drive and the processor." He tapped the board. "Owen is 8. For 8 years, his processor has received 0 video input, just static. When the brain doesn't use a pathway, it prunes it. It's called synaptic pruning. His brain has rewired itself to process sound and touch with heightened efficiency. The visual cortex? It's dark. It's atrophied." Maya nodded slowly. Deprivation amblyopia. Exactly, Thorne said. If I remove those shells and if the corneas underneath are clear, which is a massive if, light will hit his retina. The signal will travel to the brain. But his brain won't know what a chair is. It won't know what depth is. It won't see a face. It will see an explosion of chaotic, terrifying colors and shapes. It will be an assault. Thorne leaned in close to Lucas. You think you're giving him a gift, but you might be giving him a nightmare. He will be functionally blind even with his eyes open, perhaps for years, until his brain learns to interpret the signal. Are you ready for that war? Lucas looked at Owen. The boy was sitting quietly, listening to the crackle of the wood stove. He's a fighter, Lucas said quietly. He lives in the dark now. If I can give him even a chance at the light, I have to take it. I can't let him live with plastic shutters on his eyes because I was afraid of the hard work. Thorne held Lucas's gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. I can't do it here. I need an anesthesiologist. But I still have privileges at a small private surgical center in Spokane. I can call in a favor. When? Lucas asked. Tomorrow morning. Don't feed him past midnight. They stayed at a motel near the clinic in Spokane. The room smelled of lemon polish and old carpet. It was 10:00 p.m. Owen was sitting on the edge of the bed, his legs swinging. He looked anxious. The disruption to his routine was taking its toll. Dad? I'm here, buddy. Lucas sat beside him. Is it going to hurt? You'll be asleep, like a long nap. When you wake up, your eyes will feel scratchy, like you have sand in them. And then I'll see. Lucas paused. He remembered Thorne's warning, an explosion of chaotic, terrifying colors. Owen, Lucas said, taking his son's small hands in his massive, calloused ones. I need you to listen to me carefully. This is a briefing, like the missions we talk about. Owen straightened up. A briefing, okay. When the bandages come off, it's not going to be like turning on a light switch. It's going to be loud. Not sound loud, but light loud. Your brain is going to be confused. It might be scary. Like the thunderstorm last summer? Yes, but just like the storm, it can't hurt you. I will be right there. Maya will be right there. You have to be brave. You have to hold the line. Owen squeezed Lucas's hand. I can hold the line. Lucas kissed the top of his son's head. I know you can. Get some sleep. Once Owen was breathing steadily in sleep, Lucas went outside to the balcony. Maya was there, leaning against the railing, staring at the city lights. You're scared, she said. She didn't look at him. I'm terrified, Lucas admitted. It was the first time he had admitted fear to anyone since Sarah died. If this goes wrong, if the eyes are damaged underneath, I'm giving him hope just to take it away. Maya turned to face him. The sodium streetlights cast long shadows across her face. You aren't giving him hope, Lucas. You're giving him truth. Right now, his reality is a lie constructed by a mistake 8 years ago. Whatever is under those shells, whether it's sight or blindness, it's the truth. He deserves his own truth. Lucas looked at her. He really looked at her. For weeks he had seen her as an intruder, a hippie therapist disrupting his order. Now, he saw the steel in her spine. You're good at this, he said gruffly. Occupational therapy. Fixing things people give up on. Maya smiled, a small, sad smile. I had a brother. He had cerebral palsy. People talked over him, around him, never to him. I promised myself I'd never let anyone be invisible. They stood in silence for a while. 2 guardians at the gate of a life-changing event. Get some rest, Lucas, she said softly. Tomorrow is D-Day. The surgical center was quiet, clean, and efficient. Dr. Thorne was a different man in scrubs. The gruff mountain hermit was gone. In his place was a surgeon of terrifying focus. Lucas was not allowed in the operating room. He paced the waiting room, wearing a hole in the generic carpet. Every minute felt like an hour. He checked his watch, 08:14. Incision time, 08:45. Extraction, 09:30. Still no word. Maya sat in a chair, reading a magazine, but she hadn't turned a page in 40 minutes. At 10:15, the double doors swung open. Thorne walked out. He pulled his surgical mask down. His expression was unreadable. Lucas stopped pacing. He felt his heart stop. "Well?" Thorne exhaled long and slow. "It was complicated." "Is he okay?" "He's stable. He's in recovery." Thorne rubbed his temples. The tissue was thicker than I thought. It had vascularized heavily into the plastic. I had to dissect it layer by layer. "And?" Maya pressed, standing up. And Thorne looked at them, his eyes gleaming with a strange mixture of disbelief and professional awe. "The shells did their job. They acted as a perfect barrier. The cornea's underneath. They are pristine, clear. The lens is intact." Lucas felt his knees give way. He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "But," Thorne raised a finger, his voice stern. "His eyelids are swollen shut. I've put heavy patching on. We cannot, I repeat, cannot, expose him to light yet. We need to let the inflammation subside. He stays in the dark for 48 more hours. Then we do the reveal." The next 2 days were a blur of hushed whispers and beeping monitors. Owen was groggy, complaining of itching and pressure. Lucas sat by his bed, holding his hand so he wouldn't rub his eyes. "It feels tight, Dad," Owen whimpered. "That's the healing, buddy. Don't touch." Finally, the moment came. The room was dimly lit. Thorne had instructed them to keep the blinds drawn, allowing only a sliver of ambient light. Lucas stood on the left side of the bed. Maya stood on the right. Thorne stood at the foot. "Okay, Owen," Thorne said gently. "I'm going to take the bandages off. Keep your eyes closed until I say so." Thorne snipped the gauze. He unwound the soft white wrapping. It fell away, revealing Owen's face. It looked different. The swelling had gone down, and without the bulky mass of the overgrown tissue and the shells beneath, his eyes looked normal. The lids were closed, but the shape was right. "Okay," Thorne whispered. "Lucas, talk to him. He needs an anchor." Lucas leaned in. His heart was hammering so hard he thought Owen must hear it. "Owen, it's Dad. I'm right here. I'm scared," Owen whispered. "I know. I'm here. Open your eyes, son." "Just a little bit." Owen took a shaky breath. His eyelids fluttered. The lashes parted. For the first time in 8 years, the milky, scarred white wall was gone. Underneath were irises of the most startling, deep electric blue Lucas had ever seen. They were Sarah's eyes. But they weren't looking at anything. They were darting wildly. This was the nystagmus Thorne had warned about, the eyes searching for a focal point they didn't know how to find. "Owen," Lucas said. Owen gasped. He threw his hands up to cover his face. "It hurts, it's too loud." "What hurts?" The feeling, it's hitting me," Owen cried out, panicked. "It's light, Owen, it's just light," Maya said soothingly, putting a hand on his shoulder. "Lower your hands slowly. Let it in." Owen lowered his hands, trembling. He blinked rapidly. His eyes darted left, right, up, down. They couldn't lock on. "I see." "Ghosts," Owen whispered. "Moving ghosts." "That's shadows," Lucas said, tears streaming down his face, unashamed. "Can you see me?" Owen turned his head toward Lucas's voice. His blue eyes swept over Lucas's face, but they looked through him, not at him. "I see. A dark mountain," Owen said. Lucas realized Owen was seeing his silhouette against the dim light of the wall. To Owen, Lucas wasn't a face. He was a shape, a contrast. "That's me," Lucas choked out. "I'm the mountain." Owen reached out. His hand, usually so sure and precise, missed Lucas's face by 6 inches. His depth perception was non-existent. Lucas caught his hand and pressed it to his cheek. "Touch matches sight," Maya whispered, her own eyes wet. "Connect the two." "This is my face," Lucas said. "What you see is what you feel." Owen's fingers traced Lucas's jaw, his beard, his nose. His eyes tried to follow his hand. Slowly, agonizingly, slowly. The erratic darting of his eyes slowed. They focused on his own fingers, then moved to Lucas's skin. A connection sparked. The brain, dormant for 8 years, received the signal. This texture equals this visual pattern. Owen's mouth fell open. He stared at Lucas, really stared. "Dad?" he whispered, as if meeting him for the first time. "Hi, buddy," Lucas sobbed. "You look big." Laughter bubbled up in the room, breaking the tension. But the miracle was just beginning. And as Dr. Thorne had warned, the hardest battle wasn't the surgery. It was what came next. As Owen looked around the room, his expression shifted from awe to sheer sensory overload. He squeezed his eyes shut and screamed, "Make it stop! Make it stop moving!" The world was not a static grid anymore. It was a fluid, terrifying torrent of information. And Owen wanted the safety of the dark back. Homecoming was supposed to be a celebration. Lucas had imagined it 1,000 times. Pulling into the driveway, Owen looking out the window, pointing at the house, pointing at the big oak tree, smiling. The reality was a tactical retreat. Owen sat in the back seat with a heavy wool scarf wrapped around his head, covering his eyes. He was curled into a fetal position, trembling. Every time the car passed beneath the shadow of a tree and back into the sunlight, Owen flinched as if he had been struck physically. "We're almost there, buddy," Lucas said, his eyes checking the rearview mirror every 10 seconds. "Safe zone and 5 mics. "It's strobing," Owen mumbled, his voice thick with nausea. "The light, it pulses." Maya, sitting in the passenger seat, turned back. "That's normal, Owen. Your brain isn't used to the refresh rate of reality. It's trying to process every single photon at once. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose." When they got inside the house, Lucas immediately moved to close the blackout curtains he had installed the day before. The living room plunged into a soothing gray gloom. Owen ripped the scarf off and gasped, sucking in air like a drowning man breaking the surface. He looked around the room, his blue eyes wide, terrified, and unblinking. "Is the floor moving?" Owen asked, gripping the sofa. Lucas looked at the carpet. It was a simple Persian rug with a geometric pattern. "No, the floor is solid, static." "It looks like a snake's twisting," Owen whispered. He lifted his foot, afraid to step down. Maya stepped forward, her voice calm and grounding. "That's the pattern, Owen. Your brain sees the lines and the contrast, but it doesn't understand flatness yet. It thinks the dark colors are holes and the light colors are hills. It's trying to map a 3D world onto a 2D surface." Lucas watched helpless as his son, who used to navigate this room with the confident swagger of a veteran, crawled on his hands and knees to get to the hallway, afraid to trust his own feet. The irony was a bitter pill in Lucas's throat. He had fixed the hardware. The eyes were perfect, but he had broken the software. Owen was more disabled now than he had been in the dark. Over the next week, the house became a battleground of sensory overload. Owen refused to open his eyes during the day. He claimed the sunlight hurt his brain. He only felt comfortable at twilight or with a single dim lamp. Lucas tried to apply his Navy SEAL discipline to the problem. He set up drills. "Identify the object," Lucas commanded, holding up an apple. Owen squinted, his face contorted in concentration. "Red, round, shiny. What is it?" "A ball?" Owen guessed. "No, it's an apple. You eat it." Owen looked at it, confused. He reached out, his hand missing the fruit by 3 inches to the left. When his fingers finally brushed the waxy skin, relief washed over his face. "Apple," he said firmly. "Smooth. Cool. Apple." "You have to see it before you touch it," Lucas insisted, frustration creeping into his voice. "Trust the eyes, Owen." "I can't," Owen shouted, pushing the apple away. "The eyes lie. They say it's far, but it's close. They say it's big, but it's small. My hands never lie." Lucas stood there, the apple rolling across the floor, realizing that he was pushing his son toward a breaking point. Maya watched from the doorway, arms crossed. She waited until Owen had stormed off to his room, counting his steps, eyes squeezed shut, before she spoke. "You're training a sniper, Lucas, but you need to be training an infant." Lucas turned on her. "He's 8 years old." "He's smart." "He is brilliant," Maya corrected. "But his visual cortex is a newborn. You are expecting him to read Shakespeare when he hasn't even learned the alphabet of light. If you keep drilling him like this, he will reject the vision. He will choose the blindness because it's safe. Is that what you want?" Lucas ran a hand through his hair. I just want him to see the world. He is seeing it, Maya said softly, and it scares him to death. The rehabilitation strategy changed. Maya took command. We are going back to basics, she announced the next morning. She cleared the living room table. No more guessing games. We are going to teach his brain how to build a picture. She brought out high-contrast cards, black stripes on white backgrounds. Owen, Maya said, sitting across from him. Don't tell me what it is. Just trace the line with your finger. It was tedious work. For hours, Owen would trace edges. He had to learn that a sharp change in color meant an edge. He had to learn that when an object got smaller, it wasn't shrinking. It was moving away. This was the concept of depth perception, and it was the hardest lesson. One afternoon, Maya set up a plastic cup on the table and gave Owen a pitcher of water. Pour the water into the cup, she said. Lucas watched from the kitchen. It seemed simple. Owen held the pitcher. He looked at the cup. He tilted the pitcher. The water splashed all over the table, missing the cup entirely. Owen slammed the pitcher down. I'm stupid! I'm stupid! No, Maya said firmly, catching his wrist. You are not stupid. Your brain is a flat earther. It thinks the world is a painting. Look here. She guided his hand to the rim of the cup. Touch it. Now look at it. See how the light curves around the rim? That's the signal for round. That's the signal for open. She made him do it again, and again, and again. Pour, stop, look, adjust, Maya chanted. On the 10th try, a stream of water made it into the cup. I did it, Owen gasped, watching the water level rise. I saw the water. It looks like liquid glass. Yes, Maya cheered. Lucas felt a lump in his throat. It was a small victory, a tiny tactical gain, but it was the first time Owen had smiled at something he saw rather than something he felt. 2 weeks later, Maya decided it was time for a field test. The grocery store, she proposed. Lucas hesitated. Too many civilians. Too many variables. He needs a rich environment, Maya argued. Controlled chaos. They went to the local market at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, when it was quiet. Owen wore sunglasses and a baseball cap to limit the glare. He held Lucas's hand with a grip that turned his knuckles white. At first, it went well. Owen was fascinated by the aisle of cereal boxes. So many colors, he whispered. Do they make noise? Only if you shake them, Lucas said, smiling. But then, they turned into the produce section. The automatic misters over the vegetables turned on with a hiss. A stock boy dropped a crate of oranges, and the bright orange spheres rolled across the white linoleum floor. To Lucas, it was a minor accident. To Owen, it was an apocalypse. The rolling oranges created a strobing effect. The movement was too fast for his brain to track. The hissing mist sounded like a threat. The bright colors of the peppers and apples vibrated in his vision. Sensory overload hit him like a physical blow. Owen screamed. He dropped to the floor, covering his head. It's falling. The sky is falling. He was experiencing vertigo. Without a fixed horizon, the spinning oranges made him feel like the floor was tilting. Shoppers stopped. They stared. A woman whispered loudly, "What's wrong with that kid?" Lucas felt the familiar surge of protective adrenaline. He stepped between the crowd and his son, his shoulders squaring, his glare daring anyone to speak. "Back off," Lucas growled low, the command radiating authority. He knelt down. Owen, listen to my voice. Close your eyes. Reboot." Owen sobbed, rocking back and forth. "I want the dark. Take me back to the dark." Lucas scooped him up. Owen was 8, but in that moment, he felt small and fragile. Lucas carried him out of the store, leaving the cart, leaving the groceries, retreating from the world he so desperately wanted to give his son. In the truck, Owen kept his eyes squeezed shut. "I don't want to see any more, Dad. It hurts. It's too messy." Lucas looked at Maya. She looked tired. "We pushed too hard," she said. "No," Lucas said, staring at the road. "We didn't push hard enough. The world doesn't slow down for him. He has to catch up." "He is not a recruit, Lucas," Maya snapped. "He's a ward," Lucas said, his voice cold. "And wards don't quit." But looking at his weeping son, Lucas wasn't sure if that motto was a promise or a curse. The tension in the house curdled into silence. The grocery store incident had set Owen back. He refused to do the exercises. He spent his days in his room, listening to audiobooks with the lights off. Lucas grew restless. He spent hours in the garage, hitting the heavy bag until his knuckles bled. He felt like he was failing his mission. He had identified the target, blindness, executed the operation, surgery, but the hostage, Owen, was refusing to be rescued. One evening, a storm began to brew over the mountains. The air pressure dropped, heavy and electric. Lucas found Owen in the kitchen, feeling his way along the counter to get a glass of water. His eyes were closed. "Open them," Lucas said from the doorway. Owen froze. "I know where the water is." "Open your eyes, Owen. You have perfectly good vision. Use it." "I don't need it," Owen mumbled. "I can hear the fridge humming. I know the glass is 12 inches from the edge." "And what if I move the glass?" Lucas asked. He stepped forward and slid the glass to the edge of the counter. Owen reached out to where the glass should have been. His hand grasped empty air. He swept his arm sideways and knocked the glass off the counter. It shattered. Owen jumped back, gasping. "If you had looked, you would have seen it," Lucas said, his voice hard. "You're choosing to be blind because it's easy. Laziness is not safety, Owen." "Lucas, stop." Maya's voice came from the hallway. "Stay out of this, Maya," Lucas warned, not looking at her. He needs to understand that the world changes. He can't memorize the grid forever. "I hate you," Owen screamed, his face red, tears leaking from his tightly shut eyes. "I hate the eyes, they make me dizzy. I hate you for making me do this." "I did this for you," Lucas shouted back, the frustration boiling over. "I spent my life fighting to get home to you, and now I'm fighting to give you a life, and you're hiding in the dark like a coward." The word hung in the air. Coward. It was a word Lucas had never used on his son. It was the one unforgivable sin in his code. Owen went deadly still. He opened his eyes. The blue irises were swimming with tears, but they focused on Lucas with a sudden piercing clarity. "I'm not a coward," Owen whispered. He turned and ran. He didn't run with the shuffling, careful gait of a blind child. He ran with the reckless, stumbling speed of a child fleeing pain. He ran out the back door. "Owen!" Lucas lunged, but he slipped on the water from the broken glass. He went down hard, his bad shoulder slamming into the floor. By the time Lucas scrambled up, pain shooting down his arm, the back door was swinging in the wind. Outside, the sky cracked open. Thunder rolled like artillery fire. The rain began to fall in sheets, heavy and cold. "Owen!" Lucas roared, running into the yard. But the yard was empty. Beyond the manicured lawn lay the dense pine forest that bordered the property. The back 40, Lucas called it. It was wild, rugged terrain full of ravines and creek beds. And it was getting dark. Maya ran out, pulling on her jacket. "Where is he?" "He ran for the woods," Lucas said, panic rising in his chest like bile. "He doesn't know the woods. He's never been allowed past the fence line." "He can't see in the dark," Maya cried. "His night vision. He has no contrast sensitivity yet. In the rain, everything will look like a gray wall." Lucas ran to the shed and grabbed his tactical gear, flashlights, a med kit, a radio. He tossed a light to Maya. "We split up. You take the creek line. I take the ridge. He's small. He'll try to find cover." "Lucas." Maya grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with fear. "If he panics, if he tries to run blind in there." "He won't," Lucas said, though he didn't believe it. "Move." Lucas sprinted toward the trees. The rain was blinding. The wind whipped the branches into a frenzy. "Owen! Owen!" He scanned the ground for tracks. He found a small footprint in the mud near the old deer trail. It was heading uphill, toward the ravine. Lucas pushed harder, his lungs burning. The ravine was a 30-foot drop into jagged rocks. If Owen didn't see the edge. "Owen, stop! Freeze!" Lucas bellowed, using his command voice. But the wind swallowed his words. Suddenly, Lucas stopped. He saw something about 50 yards ahead. A small figure huddled at the base of a massive pine tree, right at the edge of the drop-off. Owen was sitting there, knees to his chest. Lucas moved slowly, tactical training taking over. He didn't want to startle the boy. One wrong step backward and Owen would fall. "Owen," Lucas said, his voice cutting through the rain. "Don't move, buddy, it's Dad." Owen didn't move. He didn't turn his head. Lucas got closer. He shone his light on the boy. Owen was staring straight ahead. His eyes were wide open. He wasn't blinking. He was staring out into the darkness of the ravine, into the swirling rain. "Dad?" Owen's voice was faint. "I've got you." Lucas reached out and grabbed the back of Owen's jacket, hauling him away from the edge. He pulled his son into a crushing embrace, burying his face in the wet, muddy hood. "I've got you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Dad," Owen said again, pulling back. He pointed into the dark. "What? What is it?" "I saw it," Owen whispered, shivering violently. "Saw what?" "The light. Down there." Lucas frowned. He looked over the edge. He saw nothing but blackness and rain. "There's no light, Owen, it's just the storm." "No," Owen insisted, his voice trembling with a strange certainty. "Not a big light. A small one, like a star. It blinked 3 times, then stopped, then 3 times. Lucas froze. 3 short blinks, 3 long pauses, 3 short blinks. SOS. Lucas squinted into the ravine. He saw nothing, but he knew his son's eyes were different. Dr. Thorne had said the new corneas were pristine, the receptors fresh, and because Owen's brain hadn't learned to filter out noise yet, he saw everything. Every photon. Lucas pulled his high-powered tactical light and swept the bottom of the ravine. The beam cut through the rain. It hit the rocks below. There, crumpled against a boulder, was a splash of unnatural color, a blue windbreaker, and a hand holding a small keychain flashlight. Someone was down there. "Good eye, soldier," Lucas whispered, a chill running down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. "Good eye." The rain hammered against the rocks, turning the edge of the ravine into a slick, treacherous lip. Lucas stared into the abyss, his heart rate steadying into the rhythmic, cold beat of a soldier in crisis mode. "Owen," Lucas barked over the wind, securing a climbing rope around the base of the massive pine tree. "I'm going down. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Do not move your feet." I can't see him anymore," Owen stammered, wiping water from his face. "The light stopped blinking. He's likely unconscious, or the battery died. But you gave me a vector," Lucas said, pulling his harness tight. He looked at his son. "Listen to me. I'm going to lose line of sight when I go over the overhang. I need eyes on the target. Can you see the rock where the light was?" Owen squinted, his blue eyes wide and absorbing the faint ambient light of the storm. To Lucas, the ravine was a pit of black ink, but to Owen, whose retinas were fresh and hypersensitive to even the faintest photons, the world was a wash of gray scales and contrasts. "I see the rock," Owen said. "It looks like a sleeping bear." "Good. You are my spotter. If I drift too far right, you yell starboard. If I go left, a port. You remember the terms?" "Starboard right, port left," Owen recited, his voice shaking but clear. "Execute," Lucas said. And he dropped backward into the dark. The descent was brutal. Mud clogged his boots and the wind slammed him against the limestone face. As Lucas descended past the overhang, he was blind. The tactical light on his vest only illuminated the rock face 3 inches in front of his nose. "Owen, status!" Lucas yelled into his radio mic. "You're too far to the port!" Owen screamed from above. "The bare rock is more that way." Lucas kicked off the wall, swinging hard to his right. He trusted his son. He had to. "More!" Owen yelled. "He's right below you. Stop!" Lucas braked the rope, his gloves smoking against the friction. He hung suspended in the void, swinging slightly. He looked down. There, wedged between 2 boulders and a fallen log, was an elderly man. He was wearing a fishing vest and looked pale, his leg twisted at a sickening angle. "Target acquired," Lucas whispered. He rappelled the last 10 feet and landed beside the man. He checked for a pulse. Weak, thready, but there. "Dad?" Owen's voice drifted down, small and terrified. "I have him, Owen. He's alive." Lucas went to work. He stabilized the leg with a splint made from a branch and duct tape. He wrapped the man in a thermal blanket from his medkit. But looking at the slick mud walls, Lucas realized the problem. He couldn't climb out with a 180-pound dead weight on his back. Not in this rain. He needed the winch on the front of his truck. But the truck was parked 300 yards away at the house. "Owen!" Lucas shouted up. "I'm here! I need you to run to the truck. Can you do that?" It's dark, Dad. The trees are moving. Owen, listen to me. This man will die if we don't get him warm. I need you to run to the truck, grab the winch remote from the glove box, and press the in button while I hook the cable to the tree. But wait, I can't get the cable down here." Lucas cursed. The plan was falling apart. "Dad," Owen shouted, "I can drop the other rope, the yellow one in your bag." Lucas paused. He had left the secondary gear bag up top. "Yes, tie it to the tree. Throw it down." "I have to tie a knot?" Owen asked. "A bowline, like we practiced with the shoelaces. The rabbit comes out of the hole around the tree, back in the hole." Up on the cliff, Owen's hands were shaking. He was cold, he was wet, and his vision was swimming with the chaotic motion of the rain. But he closed his eyes for a second, feeling the rope, texture, memory. Then he opened them. He looked at the tree. He saw the hole, the loop, and the rabbit, the end. He forced his brain to connect the tactile memory with the visual reality. He tied the knot. He tugged it. It held. "Dropping!" Owen yelled. The yellow rope snaked down the cliff face, landing perfectly at Lucas's feet. "Good job, sailor!" Lucas roared. The next hour was a grueling test of endurance. Lucas tied the man to his chest harness and began the agonizing climb, using the secondary rope as a pulley. Every few feet, he slipped. Every time he slipped, Owen shouted directions, guiding him away from loose rocks and slick mud patches. Owen wasn't seeing ghosts anymore. He was seeing handholds. He was seeing danger. His brain, under the supreme pressure of survival, finally stopped fighting the visual input and started using it. When Lucas finally hauled himself and the stranger over the lip of the ravine, he collapsed in the mud, gasping for air. Owen stood over them, holding the flashlight. He looked at the stranger, then at his father. "We did it," Owen whispered. Lucas sat up, wiped the mud from his eyes, and pulled Owen into a hug so tight it lifted the boy off the ground. "You did it," Lucas said, his voice cracking. "You were the eyes. You were the eyes." The stranger turned out to be Mr. Henderson, a retired geography teacher who had been illegal fly fishing in the creek. He survived with a broken tibia and mild hypothermia. In the hospital waiting room, sipping terrible vending machine cocoa, Lucas watched Owen. Owen was sitting in a chair, staring at the vending machine. He wasn't overwhelmed, he was fascinated. "E4, Owen read slowly. "Snickers." He looked at Lucas. "It says Snickers, and the wrapper is brown." "That's right," Lucas said softly. "And B2 is Skittles. Red wrapper." Maya walked in, looking exhausted but relieved. She sat down next to them. "The doctor says Henderson will be fine. He keeps asking about the commando and the hawk who saved him." Lucas chuckled. "The hawk, huh? You saw him, Owen," Maya said, turning to the boy. "Lucas missed him. I missed him. You saw the light." "It was annoying," Owen admitted. "It was blinking in the corner of my eye, like a glitch." Maya smiled, leaning forward. "That glitch is called high contrast sensitivity. Your peripheral vision is incredible because your rods, the sensors for movement and light, are brand new. You don't have the filters adults have. You see everything." Owen looked at his hands. "So, my eyes aren't broken?" "No," Lucas said firmly. "They're just tuned differently. And tonight, that difference saved a man's life." The drive home was quiet. The storm had passed. The moon was out. For the first time, Owen didn't cover his eyes in the car. He watched the moon follow them through the trees. "It moves with us," Owen observed. "Parallax," Lucas explained. "It's far away, so it looks like it's moving slowly compared to the trees." "Parallax," Owen tested the word. I like that. Over the next few months, the change wasn't sudden, but it was steady. The terror of the visual world faded into curiosity. Maya continued the therapy, but the dynamic had shifted. It wasn't about fixing Owen anymore. It was about calibrating him. They played catch. At first, Owen missed every ball. His brain couldn't calculate the arc. So Maya painted the ball bright neon green, and Lucas taught him to listen to the whoosh of the air. Use all the sensors, Lucas told him. Sight is just one intel stream. Combine it with sound. Combine it with instinct. One afternoon in late spring, Lucas was in the yard, grilling burgers. Maya was setting the table on the porch. Owen was running across the lawn. Not walking, running. He was chasing a butterfly. He stumbled over a root, flailed, corrected his balance, and kept running. Lucas watched, spatula in hand. Frozen. Owen stopped at the flower bed. He leaned in, his nose almost touching the petals. He watched the butterfly land. "Dad!" Owen shouted, not looking back. "It has eyes on its wings! Fake eyes!" "To scare away predators," Lucas called back, his throat tight. "That's smart," Owen said. "Maybe I should paint eyes on my eyelids. Then I can sleep and scare people at the same time." Lucas laughed, a deep belly laugh that cleared the last of the shadows from his chest. The auditorium was packed. Parents, doctors, therapists. The banner above the stage read, "Navigating the Unexpected, Parenting Children with Disabilities." Lucas Ward stood at the podium. He wasn't wearing his tactical gear. He wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans. He looked less like a warrior and more like a father. "I used to be a Navy SEAL," Lucas began, his voice projecting clearly without the microphone. "My job was to assess threats and neutralize them. I saw the world as a series of obstacles to be breached." He paused, looking out at the crowd. "When my son was born blind, I treated his blindness like a hostile combatant. I built a fortress around him. I controlled his environment. I decided what he could do and what he couldn't. I told myself I was protecting him." He clicked a remote. A picture appeared on the screen behind him. It was the medical diagram of the conformers, the plastic shells. For 8 years, my son had these plastic shells in his eyes. They were put there to protect him during a critical healing phase. They were necessary. But then, they were forgotten. The tissue grew over them. The protection became a prison. The room was silent. I blamed the doctors for forgetting to take them out. But the truth is, I had my own conformers. I had emotional shells covering my own eyes. I was so afraid of him getting hurt, so afraid of him failing, that I kept him in the dark long after he was ready to see. Lucas looked to the side of the stage. Owen was there, sitting with Maya. He was wearing cool wrap-around sunglasses and holding a Rubik's Cube. He was twisting it, looking at the colors, then closing his eyes to feel the mechanism, then looking again. Integrating. "My son can see now," Lucas continued. "But the surgery didn't cure him. The surgery just opened the shutters. The cure came when I stopped trying to force him to see the world my way and let him learn to see it his way." Lucas leaned into the podium. "Some of you are fighting battles for your kids right now. You are tired, you are scared. You are trying to fix them. My advice? Stop trying to fix. Start looking. Look for the plastic shells you might have put there yourself, the limits you set because you're afraid. The world is loud and bright and scary, but if you stand beside them instead of in front of them, they might just spot the rescue signal you missed." Lucas smiled at Owen. Owen waved back, then held up the Rubik's Cube. It was solved. "Thank you," Lucas said. The sun was setting over Silver Creek. The light was golden, the kind of light that makes the mountains look like they are on fire. Lucas sat on the porch steps. Maya sat beside him, a cold beer in her hand. "He's doing well," Maya said, watching Owen in the yard. He was trying to teach the neighbor's dog how to fetch, throwing a stick with improved, though still questionable, aim. "He is," Lucas agreed. "He still gets headaches. He still closes his eyes when he's tired." "That's his baseline," Maya said. "He's an ambivert of the senses. He walks between the worlds. I can live with that," Lucas said. He looked at Maya. "You saved him, you know. You were the one who looked closer. I just removed the obstruction, Maya shrugged. He did the seeing, and you did the catching. Owen ran up to the porch, breathless, his cheeks flushed. Dad! Maya! Did you see that? See what? Lucas asked. The bat. It swooped down and caught a moth. Mid-air. I missed it, Lucas admitted. You guys are blind, Owen joked, shaking his head. He turned back to the yard, scanning the twilight sky with his electric blue eyes, searching for the next wonder, the next shadow, the next signal in the noise. Lucas watched him go. He took a deep breath of the cool mountain air. The silence of the house was gone, replaced by the sounds of a child running, a dog barking, and life moving forward. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. It was loud. It was beautiful. If you enjoyed this fictional story of Owen and Lucas, please remember to like and subscribe. We share stories like this to remind us all that sometimes the hardest things to see are the things right in front of us. Thanks for watching.